Well, greetings, Series 10 test takers. This is Dean Tenney. I'm coming to you from my studio here in fabulous Las Vegas. It's time for our second installment of the explication of the FINRA content outline for Series 9-10. We're on 1.2 today. That'll be the installment on reviewing and maintaining associated persons registrations and disclosures. So let's get started on this installment. Now, hopefully some of this is familiar to you. If not, you'll kind of help you. These explications are about pointing you in the right direction in your study efforts. They're not a substitute for narrative lectures or reading the book or those other things, just trying to point out some areas for you. As you can see, we did 1.1 earlier. So as I said, we're on 1.2. And 1.2 is a U4. Let's get started there. And as you know, when we bring somebody on board, I think as the U4 is hello and the U5 is goodbye. And in our business, not a test term, if one of our associated persons or would-be associated persons can answer everything on the U4, no, we call that a clean U4. And if there are yes answers on that U4, we call that not testable, a dirty U4. Now, there are some yes answers that are dirtier than others, and they are reasons for statutory disqualification, meaning the regulators can disqualify you by statute. So, usually if they deny a registration, I don't know why it's not letting me change colors. I like to do it in red to distinguish my comments from what's going on in here. There we go. Statutory disqualification. And that means they don't need to give you any explanation about why this person, FINRA, is not allowing them to get involved in the business. One of those would be conviction of a felony within the last 10 years. I'm not going to pay attention here. I'm going to correct this spelling just once, and then I'm going to leave the spelling alone because the point isn't typos or spelling. It's do you understand the content? Conviction of felony within the last 10 years. There we go. Number two would be a misdemeanor involving embezzlement of monies and securities, misdemeanor involving monies and securities. And the other one, have you ever been denied, suspended, or revoked registration by an SR in the past? I call this don't we know you somewhere. Know you've denied, suspended, or revoked registration in the past. Now, by the way, I didn't say we won't be able to get them registered. We're just saying it's reasons for statutory disqualification. We may be able to get them registered with heightened supervision, some other things. The U4 also is going to ask you where you've been residing for the last 10 years. It's going to ask you 5 years of resident employment history. A lot of our reps don't know, but embedded in the U4 is the arbitration clause where the associated person agrees that they have a problem with the broker dealer, they're going to take us to arbitration. The exception would be to HR issues like sexual harassment, age discrimination. That would be the exception. So I'll put that there. I'm good just calling that broadly HR issues. That can't, make you go to arbitration for that kind of stuff. Any amendments, I would really make sure that amendments to U4s need to be made within 30 days. Now, what that means is something that was a no answer becomes a yes answer. So I think of U4 as hello, and then U5 is goodbye. And again, we're going to do an update on the U5. We have to give, let's put that in there. Looks like my different color out here. We're going to give a copy to the rep of that U5. We'll make amendments again if anything in this exit interview has now become a yes, that was a no, that will be there's kind of like a final check. And we give this to the rep within that 30 days. So that 30 days is kind of a common thing. And then disclosures would be the circumstances of the disassociation from the firm, whether it's just, people move on, it's not a problem. It's just, is there something that needs to be disclosed about the disassociation? Because what U5 is, disassociation from the broker dealer. And then that U5 is, important. We're not allowed to park a registration. And that's where, somebody says, well, Dean, can you leave that thing with, file that U5 because I don't want that clock ticking on that. So no parking of registrations. It's embarrassing. Some people don't know that's a no-no. I've seen people say, oh, well, I have my registration marked. You're like, oh man, you don't even know that's a bad thing. Appropriate registration. So as a 9 and 10, you need to have a general understanding of what registrations do what. And first thing I would want you to know about registrations, that with a 9 or 10, you are not a general securities principal. So I would imagine at some point, maybe you'll join me for a 24 class with your 9 or 10, you're a sales supervisor. And the biggest test issue about not a series 24, not being a general securities principal, is that your 9 and 10 means you can't approve advertisements. You're also going to remember with your 9 or 10 as a sales supervisor, if you have people selling variable annuities, for example, you need to make sure those reps are appropriately registered with the insurance. You can get a securities registration. Let me just put variable annuities here. You're going to need a 6 or a 7 because there's an embedded separate account or sub account is a mutual fund. So there is a securities product embedded into the variable annuity. And then they're also going to need the appropriate insurance registration. And then another thing we should know is there's a lot of times where people want to split commissions. And I say, well, I don't want to go get a 6 or a 7. And we should definitely know we don't give concessions, discounts, and allowances to people who are not registered. So if this person just has a traditional insurance license and no 6 or 7, they can't split commissions with a 6 or 7. So we have to make sure they're blue sky to the state. And that's going to be a series 63 if they're just representing, there's some states don't require that. With a 663 or 763, all I do if I work for you, you're my 910, is I represent the broker dealer. And if we're going to be offering wrap accounts, then we're going to need not a 63 for wrap accounts, because wrap accounts have an investment advisory fee to them. And that means we typically have a affiliated investment advisory service. And so that's going to wrap accounts. Looks like I didn't say that right. Series 63, let me put it this way. Series 63 only represents the broker dealer to represent an affiliated investment advisory firm. Put it that way. An affiliated investment advisory firm. I'm going to need a 65 or 66. And, you're probably going to have some 663s will get a 65, or 763 that will get a 65, or 766. I don't think you need to worry about this on the test, but 66 only works with a 7. So, your 6 and 63s, if they want to sell wrap accounts or, represent the investment advisory firm, they're going to have to get a 65. Okay, so state, we talked about that. We talked about FINRA, 6 and 7s are the main ones. We talked about you need the insurance license to sell variable annuities, and appointments. Appointments means to the various states you're going to conduct business. Remember, if you have a retail client in the state, then you need to let the state, administrator know about that. Outside business activities, first keyword here is business activities. We're not talking about volunteering. We're talking about doing things outside the scope of your employment of the broker dealer for pay, and the firm can restrict those activities. If the broker dealer thinks there's an adverse interest, they might say, sorry, I'm not going to let you do that. One of the questions on every new account form is, are you an associated person of another broker dealer? And if the answer to that is yes, then we make written notice to your employing broker dealer that you're attempting to open an account here. And then we're going to follow any instructions they give us about duplicate confirms and statements, that kind of stuff. So that would require a disclosure And again, the firm can restrict that. It doesn't apply to charitable volunteers. Does not apply. Let me get it. So we're not concerned with you, volunteering at the, PBS telethon. Right, volunteer means there's no compensation. This doesn't apply to passive investments where you're receiving money, not you working for money, your money working for you. I'm a limited partner or I have a mutual fund. That's not what this is about. Again, we talked about disclosure of personal accounts elsewhere. And as, by the way, that too can be restricted. The firm can either say yes or no to personal accounts elsewhere. I know some like investment banking firms where they let them have accounts elsewhere, but it's Fidelity or Schwab, whatever the case might be, because they're not geared to do retail investments. Private securities transactions, very, very testable. So, we have an approved product list. The approved product list is what our reps are allowed to get people involved in. And if it's not on the approved product list, what that means is we don't have a selling agreement. So I said, my baby broker, here are all the things that you can get people involved in. And if they're not on the approved product list, then you can't get people involved in that. Now, if I want to do a private securities transaction, I want to get people involved in an investment not sponsored by my broker dealer, I'm going to ask permission. Not likely I'm going to get it, but if they did, they'd send a letter to every one of these customers and say, this is not a broker dealer sponsored investment. So if, this blows up, don't come whining to us. Now, as a test question, they'll say something like, an associated person of a broker dealer gets a customer involved in an investment not sponsored by the broker dealer without permission. This is a prohibited practice and is known as, you got to come up with selling away. Most broker dealers, that's a strike 3 offense. Fiduciary appointments means you're acting, or maybe I've been appointed as a trustee for a trust, something like that. Again, if you have a fiduciary relationship, the firm wants to know about that because, again, as a fiduciary, you're not supposed to be representing the broker dealer, but rather that third party. So again, another issue of potential disclosure. Political contributions, I would know about MSRB. Let me get my different color here. I would worry about MSRB G20, G37. The MSRB, the Municipal Securities Rulemaking Board, has A rules, administrative rules. They have G rules, general rules, and they have definitional rules. And so G37 is about political campaign contributions. And the way we say this is pay to play. And what MSRB says is if I can vote for the elected official, so let's say associated person and vote for the elected official, then they are allowed to give $250 per election cycle. Now, be careful there. They have to be able to vote. If you can't vote, then you're not supposed to give them any money. You can't tell me people don't know this. And then, the point here is if you break the rules, so a violation of G37 would mean that we would have restrictions about doing business with the underwriter for 2 years. Disciplinary criminal actions. We talked about if those disciplinary or criminal actions, can change the U4 to from no to yes, and that needs to be disclosed again, as we've said, within 30 days. I can't tell you how many firms get in trouble for not making the disclosures in a timely fashion about disciplinary action from the SRO, the SEC, the state administrator. We're not talking about internal disciplinary actions or criminal actions, and not making that. I don't know what my color thing here is within that 30 days we talked about. Come on. Let me try one more time. There we go. And that's amendments to that U4. Your symptom CRD is where that's going. And then the MSRB version of this is G20, but FINRA has the same rule. And so the one we're going to ask you about is the gift or gratuity rule as it applies to an employee of one member firm to another employee. So the maximum gift or gratuity, let me change colors again here. The maximum gift or gratuity that an associated person of one broker dealer, let's just call it broker dealer, I'll say associate person of broker dealer A, and give to broker dealer B to an associated person broker dealer A, and to associated person broker dealer B, is $100. Where this comes up more often than not is with a wholesaler. A wholesaler is an associated person of the fund distributor. We have a selling agreement with them, and the fund distributor, is getting my brokers to sell the product. We want to make sure they're selling the product because of the client's best interest, not because they're being compensated. There's the exceptions, are very custodial exceptions. This are for normal business, normal deductible business activities. And a reminder advertising. So, if I'm a top producer and the fund distributor wants to give me a tombstone that says, Dean Tenney, top producer, that's fine. Now, as it relates to third-party vendors and that kind of a thing, we, in our firm's written supervisory procedures, very testable, that's where all this stuff resides. We ask every hire to read the firm's written supervisory procedures, and that would cover what the firm's policy are in terms of gift or gratuities from vendors, or gift or gratuities from whoever. We're just talking about a gift or gratuity from an associated person of broker dealer A to broker dealer B. So broker WSBs will written supervisory procedures will say what the restrictions are on gift or gratuities from other third parties. Now, again, these explications, ladies and gentlemen, aren't the substitute for narrative lectures or joining me for a 9-10 class. It's just to point out some of the things that you should be aware of in your study effort. I'm not elaborating on these, telling you all the war stories I could. I do got narrative lectures. I'm trying to keep these, I don't know what we'll come in at today. I'm trying to keep these at 15, 20 minutes. So hopefully we did that. Like, share, subscribe, and I'll see you for the next explication, which will be 1.3, or excuse me, 1.3. Please put in the comment box where you find these productive, because if I don't have anybody viewing them and there's no comment, then I don't move on to 1.3 unless somebody's said, Dean, I found 1.2 helpful, and then I'll go ahead and queue up 1.3 for you. In terms of 9, 10s, 24s, we appreciate the referrals to the channel. We get most of our viewership on the channel is from SIEs and 7s and 63s and 66s and 65s. We don't get much viewership on the principal registrations, but I still like to have content there for you. And like I say, I do that because I want to do it. I think it's important to have it there on the channel. And also we appreciate all you do for us in terms of referrals. So thank you very much. And I'll see you for 1.3.